Hello folks, Simon here, welcome back to the channel. First off, I apologise that this news is coming to you a couple of days later than it should have done, but oh well, better late than never, as they say. Now, for those that aren't aware, this year, 2022, is the 25th anniversary of Final Fantasy VII's original release, back in 1997. And to celebrate, Square put on an anniversary event recently. That was mostly to talk about some of the upcoming projects that are already active or have been announced, such as First Soldier, but there was a little bit of a tidbit regarding Part 2 of the remake. Now, of course, Part 1, after it was announced, took a long time to come out. I think it was announced in 2015 or something, and then it came out in 2020, so 5 years later. And a lot of people have been wondering if we can expect something similar for Part 2 in terms of timescales. However, the second part, Part 2, whatever you want to call it, hasn't even had an official reveal yet. And that's what we are waiting for. Now, I don't believe that when that reveal comes, we're going to be waiting another 5 years as we did with Part 1. Square already admitted that the reveal came too early for that game. But there was just so much hype around it that they felt they had no choice. Now, what Kitase has said at this recent anniversary event, and if you don't know who Kitase is, he was the director of the original Final Fantasy VII back in the day, and he has been producing the remake. He has told us, and this comes courtesy of the Video Games Chronicle, he has told us that they are hoping to reveal Part 2 this year. Now, by the sounds of it, it's going to be towards the end of this year, but hopefully, you know, if they're going for a reveal this year, and it does actually happen, then we can expect a release of the game probably next year, 2023. That's what I would be anticipating anyway. So effectively then, this is an announcement regarding the announcement of FF7 Part 2. But before you get too excited, just, you know, temper things a little bit. Remember, this is a similar situation that was happening with Final Fantasy XVI just over 12 months ago. We were told we could expect more information about that game by the end of the year, which would have been the end of 2021. And instead we got an update at that time saying that that has been delayed and that now further information about 16 will be happening this spring 2022. So until we actually get these reveals, you know, we can never be absolutely certain that there's not going to be any delays to them. But with the information we have right now, according to Kitase, that is what they're aiming for. So we can expect more information about the game within the next 12 months. By the way, also mentioned here was Final Fantasy VII Ever Crisis. Not really anything new to add to that, other than the fact that they're working hard at it. Ever Crisis is going to be a mobile game. For those of you that aren't aware, it's going to be free to play and released in chapters. And the trailer looks pretty good. The actual game itself looks pretty good. I mean, the release model of it and the free to play aspect is something to be concerned about. But we'll see how that plays out when the game is actually in our hands. But going back to the remake Part 2 for a moment, we don't know a whole lot about it, in all honesty. We do know that it's going to be picking up where Part 1 left off, and we know that Tetsuya Nomura, the director of Part 1, is taking a bit of a step back as he's focusing more on the franchise as a whole. And we also know that the development focus is going to be on PlayStation 5. We haven't had any confirmation whether Part 2 is going to be released on PS4, although one would expect it would be if the shortage of PS5s is still going to be the case in 2023, presuming the game is going to be released in that year. But, you know, at the end of the day, Intergrade wasn't released on PS4, and the reason that Square gave for that was that because they focused on the PS5 hardware for Intergrade, it wasn't really possible for them to bring that to PS4. So if they're doing something similar with Part 2, that sort of puts a spanner in the works as to whether we'll get a PS4 release for Part 2. So we'll have to wait and see what Square announce in that area. Ultimately, Square have really been building Final Fantasy VII into its own franchise, and it is something they are taking serious right now. We've got multiple projects in the works. We've got Final Fantasy VII Remake, of course, that's the big ongoing thing, but we've also got First Soldier, which was recently released. I know a lot of you have been loving that. Not really my cup of tea, but that's fine. Not everything's for all of us. We've got Ever Crisis, which we should be getting more information about over the coming months. And by the sounds of what has been said at this event, there is also a number of other Final Fantasy VII projects that we don't even know about yet. So, you know, more stuff on the horizon to look forward to. Effectively, it really does seem like there's never been a better time to be a Final Fantasy VII fan. But hopefully, because this is the 25th anniversary year, that Square should be banging out those announcements for us as we go through the months. But I want to really hear from you guys. What are your thoughts of the future of Final Fantasy VII? Is it something that excites you? Let me know if it is. Or is it perhaps something that you're just sick of hearing of right now? Have you had enough of Final Fantasy VII? I know that a few of you have, because you've let me know in the comments of previous videos. But personally, I'm very excited, at least for part 2 of the remake. I really want to see where Square take things after what happened in part 1. And I'm kind of keeping my eye out on Ever Crisis as well. The actual style of the game looks like something that could appeal to me. But as I say, I really want to see where they take that in terms of its free-to-play model. But I do appreciate you guys stopping by. Any of the Final Fantasy VII news that comes our way, I'll make sure to get to you in a more timely manner. But thank you so much for watching. And by the way, guys, if I can just mention, I have been pushing my Twitter account a lot more recently. I know not many of you use Twitter, and I don't blame you for that. It is a bit of a cesspool. But we've been having some pretty good conversations and that over there, and it's nice to catch up with you guys. So if you want to follow me over at fuzzfinger01, then, you're more than welcome to do so. But thank you so much for stopping by, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye, guys.